Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Harry Muppet. Welcome back to another StarCraft 2 Daily Masters cast, and as promised, we're going to be rounding out the mirror matchup series with a PvP. So let's start off with introducing the players. Down at the bottom left side of the map, it is going to be Mr. StarDust. He is 23 years old, hailing from South Korea, plays for the My Insanity team, and that's a very nice looking icon. I'm not sure if there's any sort of meaning behind it. The fact that he's missing an arm or missing a leg, however you want to look at it, but yeah, it's quite an interesting logo. And StarDust, quite an interesting player as well. I mean, I basically just, this guy was awesome, man. When I first started casting back in DreamHack 2013, I think, this is one of the first Premier tournaments which I cast the full thing of, and StarDust just blew me away when he took the grand final against Shadong. So I've loved this Protoss player ever since. He's definitely one of my favorites, and hasn't been really getting up into the top levels as much as I'd like, but still quite an extraordinary player. And his opponent down the bottom right side is Mr. Deer, who is, of course, 19 years old, from South Korea, plays for the Mouse Sports team, and my memory is always a bit funny, but I do believe that he won the WCS, basically the World Finals last year. I think he did. I can't remember. I really can't remember. I think he did. God, don't tell me I have to check this again. Oh man, I mean, I know he won this Season 3 because I'm looking at the page right here and it says he won the Season 3, but no, WCS Global Files, it was not Deer, it was somebody else. Who was it? Who was it who won that damn thing? SOS, that's right, okay. Another very awesome Protoss player. So yeah, Deer won Season 3, but Mr. SOS won the Global Finals, so yeah, alright. Sorry about that, but anyway, moving on. So let's actually start casting the game. So we got double gas going on here, with a cyber core going on as well. We've got Nexus coming down, Deer going pretty standard stuff. Mr. StarDust, double gas as well, going for a very fast Stargate, and going to be chumping out with the Oracles, hoping to get an early worker advantage by roasting all of Deer's workers as fast as he possibly can. I don't know what else he can be thinking about. Maybe starting to pump out Void Ray Army, maybe getting a couple of Phoenix for some persistent, I don't know. Ooh, actually moving the Mothership Core out really far. Deer's own Mothership Core, not really in a good position. A Sentry coming out. Whether or not this Sentry will go down, I do not know, but a Stalker coming out, and suddenly StarDust in a bad position right here. Actually, his Stalker getting locked out, so that was his plan, Mothership Core and Stalker, to try and make it work, but not going to happen. He's actually trapped to his own force field. The Mothership Core running for dear life. All it's going to take is one good hit, and boom, down it goes. So that force field from Deer to keep the Stalker out really helped that Mothership Core just go absolutely nuts. And look at the pro, man. Look at these two guys, absolutely as different as you possibly could be. They should make a TV series where these guys join up and they're like the good cop and the bad cop, or the quirky cop and the serious cop, or the I don't know, the Lyot and the Probe going together trying to fight crime or something. I reckon it would make a good TV series. But anyway, he's going in again, except this time he's got an Oracle. Oracle taking out one Sentry, taking out a second Sentry, and now he's going to be actually very interesting. I suppose the Sentries don't have much health, so yeah, the Oracle does pretty good against them. And now it's just a single Stalker and one Stalker coming in, and now he does get owned on both sides, and not quite enough to take out this Stalker. The other Stalker is going to have to run off, and Deer looks like he's building up a bunch of stuff, and finally is going to be going. Oh, he's actually left two Stalkers down there. Very nice play. Obviously expected another Oracle to be coming in. And this guy, does get taken out. Did kill like 6 workers. So he realized, you know what, I've got to kill as much as I can right now, even if I lose my Oracle. I've got to make it happen. Finally got the expansion down now. We'll look at the worker amount. And StarDust has killed quite a bit of workers right here. He's killed 10 workers. Lost a couple of fairly expensive units, but the 10 workers I think is definitely worth it. So right now he's in a great position, 10 workers up, even though he only just finished his Nexus now. Building 3 more gateways, is building a robotics facility. Going to try and be getting a bunch of army out, because he's probably realizing that there were quite a few Stalkers on the field, and if they come over, to his base, he is in trouble right now. So he's got to try and buy time. The Oracle trying to buy time. And look at this, a single immortal come out. That is huge for Mr. Deer. He's got a bunch of stalkers, single immortals, sentries might be able to block up this ramp. I think that's probably what he's going to be thinking of doing, maybe. Oh, there's a pylon at the top, so it's going to be hard. Oh, blocks it up there. He's going to be able to kill off some workers. Mortals having a crack at the Nexus, which is always a good plan. Does manage to kill off a fair few workers. 6 have gone down so far. It's very, very hard for StarDust to deal with it. It's a naturally bigger army, and the Immortal makes things very, very, very difficult for him to deal with. He does have his own Immortal out, and now he can start to really push these guys back, but the force field's really making it painful for him to do that, and the Stalkers constantly outnumber him. There's some great plays. Oracle actually coming in, doing a ton of damage to the Immortal, but finally gets taken out by the Stalker numbers. And now the Immortal coming out. Yeah, there we go. That Immortal comes down, and now this Immortal from Mr. StarDust in a very, very good position. But a lot of workers did go down for Mr. StarDust. He lost 7. So he still sort of lost less, but man, with that attack, Deer has managed to even out the numbers right there. And this Immortal is going to get going nuts. I don't think Deer can actually hold this off at this point. He needs another Immortal to really hold this off, and it's going to take too long for one to get over there. He's got a couple of Stalkers coming. That's not going to help though. A couple of Zealots just manually attacking. The Immortal did shove a lot of its health down, which is bad, and did buy Deer a little bit more time. He's boosting out another Immortal right now, but that's going to take forever to get over to the other side of the map, so it's really not going to be able to help him at the moment. And StarDust desperately wants to kill this pylon right now. Absolutely desperately wants to kill that. Waiting for a second Immortal. With a second Immortal, he should just be able to decimate these Stalker numbers. Really, really decimate. Actually sending a bunch of Zealots in here. Did they get kills? Got 1 kill total. And here we go. StarDust actually pushed out, took out that pylon, and Deer, obviously, as soon as the pylon went down, he's just like, screw this, I'm out of here. So did get back out of there. Bunch of Zealots waiting around the front. I'm not sure why. They're not in a very good position. But yeah, they can attack this sentry a little bit before they die. So yeah, it's starting to even out a little bit. The worker numbers pretty close. The supply pretty close. StarDust with a slight advantage. Going for Colossus as well. Deer going for the Templar, not the Templar Archives, the Twilight Council. Getting out Zealot legs, maybe thinking about getting a Blink as well, if he hasn't already, which he hasn't. And there we go, Templar Archives. So one player going down one route, the other player going down the other route. And it's going to be Archons versus Colossus. And, well, I don't know, actually. I don't know which one is going to be better in this game, because, I mean, Archons are pretty good, but Colossus do have the range, so it's going to come down to a number of things. See, the problem is, I mean, Deer is going to have Zealots. He's going to have a massive amount of Zealots early on. Zealots and Archons are going to be a close-up personal battle, and StarDust is going to be more range dependent. He's going to have a fair amount of Zealots, but he's going to have a lot of Immortals as well to deal with the Stalkers, and Immortals I don't think do that well against Archons and Zealots, so Deer is going to have the advantage there as far as the unit composition is concerned, but Deer is still going to need to make sure that he can get in nice and close and start taking out the Colossus. If StarDust keeps his Colossus out of range of the Archons, keeps him in a good position, doesn't let him get flanked, doesn't let him get sideswiped, then over enough time he is going to be in a good position. But Deer is the frontal full army, just run in there and just do as much full frontal damage as you possibly can. He's the up close and personal army, and that is what he's going to be designed for right now. And if he can make that happen, if he can just overwhelm Stardust's army, just go in there and just destroy everything, then maybe he can make it happen. Or the Colossus attack move. You've got to be careful of the Colossus, the way it moves up and down cliffs when you do an attack move, because more often than not, it'll end up getting to the enemy army way before the rest of your forces do, which is not necessarily a good thing. So let's finally got rid of this observer, though. They were spying on him, so that's a good thing. This pylon, man, how did Deer must have flown something over the top and saw that pylon. So down it goes, and here we go. Third base coming out. StarDust getting a bunch of Colossus out. This is his second Colossus. So currently he's got 2 Colossus, 3 Immortals, 15 Zealots. Deer's got a fair amount of units as well. I thought he would be pumping out his Zealot army a little bit more by now. Oh, look at these guys coming out. But StarDust actually got a Void Ray. So going to be chasing this. Trying to make sure he destroys that before he destroys the Zealots. Because, of course, the Warp Prism is infinitely more scary than the Zealots. Zealots just go around and hit stuff. But the Warp Prism could go anywhere at once. And boom, suddenly you're looking at DTs in the middle of your base. So not good at all. But here actually going for the Tempest, which are an insane counter for Colossus right there. So you see in the Colossus, he's going for the Tempest, and this should be very, very big. If he can be allowed to get a couple of Tempests out there and do massive amounts of damage with them, and get them anywhere near the Colossus are going to start to go down. StarDust needs something to deal with that. Void Rays are going to be a pretty good idea, but I don't know if he's even expecting anything. I mean, the Tempest being the counter for the Colossus is something that's sort of come out fairly recently, like in the last couple of months. I mean, straight after Heart of the Swarm came out, it wasn't like suddenly everybody was like, alright, PvP, I gotta get Tempest to counter Colossus. It's something that sort of took a while to sort of come out as a strategy, as a well-known strategy. I think it's starting to get well-known now. I've seen a lot more players start to use it, countering the Colossus with the Tempest, but I haven't seen it a lot yet, so yeah, I'm not sure if I'd say it's fully standard, but I'd say it's almost fully standard. It's almost standard that's the best option. It definitely is the best option. If you got a Stargate and you can get at a whatever the hell that bloody building is that you used to get the Tempest out, the Fleet Beacon, there we go, Fleet Beacon. Yeah, I mean, if you get all that stuff out, then definitely is worth it. Definitely is worth it to get the Tempest out, because they own Colossus. They do damage to air units, massive damage to air units, and I think they actually Colossus counts as air units, so they absolutely shred them. So yeah, suddenly the range advantage that StarDust was counting on has sort of turned around on top of itself, and suddenly he's the one who needs to be worried about the range of Deer's units. He still has a lot, and the thing is, with Deer building that many Tempests, his Grand Army is not going to be that good, but still, it should be okay. Deer looks like he's got a very decent amount of Grand Army. He's got a ton of Immortals. Zealots, yes, they're still pretty decent. He's got a bunch of Archons as well, and the Archons are really going to be quite awesome. And the thing is, StarDust was counting on having a big army with the range advantage, so fighting purely on ground. Now, if the Tempest in the mix, I think he is pretty screwed. He needs something to deal with the Tempest. A mass amount of Void Rays would help him out quite a bit. There he goes, trying to get the Stalkers around the side to attack the Tempest. Deer is going to back off for a nice position, and now the Stalker's got no chance of Blink in there. He is going to try and do that. Deer going to be falling back. Doesn't like the look of all of those units. Doesn't like the look of being surrounded. And now thinking about getting the Bottleneck, thinking about getting in the Tempest. You can see this Colossus taking so much damage. It really did go down very, very fast. But I think you got to manually target them. Oh, Stalker's getting a nice blink there. The Tempest's still a little bit out of range. And unfortunately, Stalkers can go down to a bit of Tempest hit. So they do have to be careful about that. Yeah. Just hoping to get a blink in there. Lead the Tempest in, blink in. Oh, and one Tempest goes down. Brilliant play by StarDust there. Just sort of moving in just enough to feed the Tempest in. And if Deer's not careful, the Tempest can sort of slip out of his control, slip in a little bit closer. StarDust just sort of reels them in, and then blinks out and just wipes them out. It's a beautiful play. Very tricky, very finicky to do, especially against an actual person. Against a computer, it's probably a lot easier, but against an actual person, a bit harder. StarDust with a ton of Zealots, but doesn't have Zealot speed at the moment, so not as effective as they otherwise would be. But now he's moving in, and his ground army is actually doing a lot of stuff. So Deer really not having the ground army that he needs. He put so many resources into the Tempest, and they are an exceptional unit when it comes to dealing with Colossus, but they're so expensive. They take so much tech to deal with, and I mean, it's not like Deer was behind on economy. In fact, he was ahead. And he had both players had the third base, but he was ahead on the economy. 5 more workers, and yet still he didn't have the forces necessary to deal with StarDust, because he went for those Tempests, and the Tempests, in the end, couldn't take out the Colossus fast enough. They just couldn't really shred them as fast as they needed to, and yeah, there we go. That was it. I mean, his Grand Force just got knocked over, just really, really badly. So, bit unfortunate there. Bit unfortunate there for Mr. Deer, but what can you say, man? I mean, just a massive amount of Colossus, I think, was the main thing that just ripped this over. So, if anything, I mean, Deer either needed, I don't know. I would have said he needed more Tempest, but then he would have had even less ground units to deal with that Grand Army. And I don't think, I mean, Tempests are good against Colossus. They really do hit them hard. They really do take them out. But I don't know. I think considering these are actually ground units, that you do have to micro your Tempest to actually hit them. I don't think it's an automatic thing. Like if you were going up against like Vikings or something, the Tempest would automatically target them, or battle cruisers. With Colossus, I think you actually do have to manually target them. And yeah, it's a pain. I mean, it's a pain to do that in the middle of a battle. And there's just so many Colossus there that it was quite a pain in the ass for Deer to actually take them out. And StarDust did an excellent job at keeping his Colossus in the back and moving his Stalkers out to the front. Getting those Blink Stalkers out, feeding the Tempest in, going out, taking them out, blinking the Stalkers out there, taking out the Tempest, keeping them occupied. And meanwhile, the Grand Force just absolutely got owned. I'm actually going to go back and look at that again because, yeah, I can't believe how quickly that ground army from Deer just got really, really badly owned. Actually, I think we need to go back a little bit further here because there are already, most of them were died at this point already. We'll move back there. Whoops, what have I done here? Okay, so here we go. Units wise, he's a little bit behind, but not too bad. He's moving in, he's got a bunch of Archons. I think it's just the Colossus. I think the Colossus are doing such a phenomenal job right here. And I mean, the massive amount of Stalkers as well, doing a great job. The Immortals, he's got a very, very decent amount of Immortals, but the problem is, I think one of the significant problems that he had to deal with here was that there were so many Zealots coming out from StarDust. I mean, the Tempest. Alright, the Tempests were a great idea. Definitely, as far as Deer was concerned, the Tempests were a great idea. The Archons are a great idea. This many Immortals, perhaps not a great idea. You would just watch it when the battle starts happening in earnest right here. But I think what really didn't help Deer in this situation is so many Zealots coming in. You see the Immortals, they're all attacking Zealots. He's trying to micro them to attack something else, but trying to micro the Immortals to attack anything other than Zealots, and trying to micro the Tempest to attack anything other than the Stalkers is a pain in the ass. It really, really is a pain in the ass. And all the starter had to do was blink the Stalkers across and attack the Tempest. So, yeah, Immortals just, I don't know, just mortal heavy. He was quite a mortal heavy. He needed to get a lot more Zealots. I think Zealots would have gone down to Colossus, but the Immortals, when you have an army with a lot of Zealots and when you have an army without a lot of Zealots, the army with a lot of Zealots will generally do a lot better, simply because all of those heavy armored damage units, Immortals, Stalkers, blah, 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 they will all attack the Zealots before they attack the opposing Stalkers and the opposing Immortals. So the army with the Zealots buy themselves time to kill the other armies. So the Immortals from the Zealot army will be directly hitting Stalkers on the other army, and they'll be wiping them out really, really quickly. Meanwhile, the Immortals on the other army, the army without Zealots, will just be hitting Zealots, and they'll be doing crap all damage, and they won't be getting anywhere. So by the time all the Zealots finally go down, most of your Stalker and Immortal army is dead from the other side's Immortal and Stalkers. I mean, yes, it's just simple maths as far as that's concerned. So, unfortunate there, but there you go. That's how the cookie crumbles. So, great job there by Mr. StarDust. Yeah, I thought the Tempests were really going to be a deciding factor, but in the end, it was down to the Zealots. I think the Zealots going up against the Immortals really was a decisive factor in this final battle. So, yeah, great job there. Thank you very much for watching this game, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. This has been Hairy Muppet.